She thought slipping him that note would give her answers. Instead, it signed her death warrant. Rain hammered the alley as Zara pressed her back against cold brick, blood trickling from her temple. Her fingers trembled around a torn envelope. Inside, her sister's face stared back from a photograph that shouldn't exist. Footsteps splashed closer. Men's voices cut through the downpour, hunting. Then, silence. A shadow filled the alley entrance. Tall, unmovable, expensive suit soaked through. Ryu Seon Hwan. His voice was winter itself. "You shouldn't have written that name." Zara's breath caught as his hand moved toward his jacket, toward the gun everyone in Busan's underworld knew he carried. Have you ever done something desperate for family? Something that couldn't be undone? She had. 1 note. 7 words. And now the most dangerous man in Korea wanted her dead. Hold on. Before I continue, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button because what happens next will blow your mind. And drop a comment telling me, where are you watching from? US, Korea, somewhere else? I read every single one. But let me tell you how we got here. 2 years ago, Zara's world shattered with a single text message. Her sister Adaizi, 28, brilliant, fearless, had left Nigeria 6 months earlier, chasing what seemed like a miracle. A housekeeping job with a wealthy Korean family. Good pay, safe housing. A chance to send money home to their struggling parents in Lagos. For half a year, Adaizi kept her promise. Wire transfers arrived like clockwork. Her messages were brief but warm. "I'm fine. The family treats me well. Don't worry." Then, nothing. The money stopped. The messages went silent. And on a Tuesday morning that Zara would never forget, one final text arrived. "Don't come looking for me." No explanation, no context, just 5 words that felt like a tombstone. Zara didn't listen. She scraped together every naira she had, sold her laptop, borrowed from friends who couldn't afford to lend, and bought a one-way ticket to Seoul. She arrived on a tourist visa with $300 in her pocket, and a photograph of her sister folded in her passport. The career she found wasn't the gleaming K-drama fantasy she'd seen on TV. It was cold shoulders and suspicious stares. It was job applications rejected the moment they saw her face. It was landlords who wouldn't rent to Africans and police who asked for papers she didn't have. Zara's tourist visa expired after 3 months. She stayed anyway. She bounced between cleaning jobs paid under the table, worked double shifts at restaurants that didn't ask questions, and lived in a cramped room in Gamcheon Culture Village, where the walls were thin and the heat barely worked. Every spare moment, every exhausted hour after her shifts, she spent searching. Expat forums, police stations, hospitals, morgues, no body, no record, no Adaise. Her sister had vanished like smoke, until 3 weeks ago, when Zara found something that made her blood run cold. It was 2 a.m. in a fluorescent-lit internet cafe near Seomyeon Station. Zara was scrolling through an old expat chat group, following a thread about missing domestic workers, when she noticed something strange, a deleted folder link that someone had accidentally left active. She clicked it. Her screen flooded with files, documents labelled with Korean business names, shipping manifests, bank transfers, offshore accounts, and photographs, dozens of them, of women in uniforms standing in luxury penthouses. One photo stopped her heart. Adai's. Her sister stood in an immaculate marble foyer, wearing a black housekeeping uniform, eyes downcast. The timestamp read, October 14th, 2023, 11:47 p.m., the night she disappeared. Zara's hands shook as she scrolled further. More files, security footage stills. And then, a video file. She clicked play. 47 seconds of shaky footage. The audio was muffled, but Zara could hear men's voices shouting in Korean. The camera was pointed at a doorway, and through it, Adaizi's terrified face appeared for just 3 seconds. Her sister's mouth opened, maybe screaming, maybe pleading, but the audio cut out. Then the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. The screen went black. Zara watched it 17 times that night, tears streaming, nausea rising, until the cafe owner told her to leave. But she'd seen enough. At the bottom of one document, a name appeared again and again. Jun Seok Han. A simple search revealed the truth. Legitimate businessman on the surface, but whispered about in the dark corners of Korean forums. The Han crime syndicate, port control, human trafficking, political protection, a ghost in a designer suit. And Adai's had worked in his home. The folder contained everything. Shipping manifests that proved illegal cargo movements, offshore accounts tracing money laundering, police payoff records, photographs of government officials at private meetings, evidence that could destroy the entire Han empire. Zara copied everything onto a USB drive, sent backups to a trusted friend in Nigeria, and realized the impossible truth. She couldn't go to the police. They were bought. She couldn't leave Korea, not without knowing if Daisy was dead or alive. She couldn't forget. One wrong move, and she'd vanish just like her sister, but doing nothing meant Adai's died for nothing. So Zara made a plan. Desperate, dangerous, possibly suicidal. Get close to someone in the Han organization. Trade information for truth. She just needed an opportunity. 3 days later, Opportunity walked through the door of Hanul restaurant wearing a tailored black suit. The dinner rush had ended. Only a few late-night customers remained scattered among the tables. Businessmen nursing soju, a couple sharing whispers in the corner booth. Zara was clearing plates, exhaustion pulling at her bones, when the front door opened. 2 bodyguards entered first. They scanned the room with practiced eyes, hands resting near concealed weapons. Then they stepped aside and he walked in, tall, mid-30s. Tall. Expensive suit that probably cost more than Zara made in 6 months. His face was sharp angles and cold calculation, handsome in the way a blade is beautiful, dangerous. The restaurant went quiet. The manager rushed forward, bowing deeply, gesturing toward the private booth in the back. The bodyguards took positions near the entrance and kitchen. The man in the black suit sat down, alone, and the world seemed to rearrange itself around his presence. Zara's co-worker, Minji, grabbed her arm and hissed in broken English, "That's Ryu Seon-hwan, Han's enforcer. Don't stare, don't talk. Just serve and leave." Zara's blood turned to ice. She'd seen his face in the files, always standing beside Jun Seok-han in photographs, always in the background of security footage, the man who handled problems. Rumours said his body count was in the dozens, and now he sat 15 feet away, checking his phone, waiting for tea. Zara's mind raced. This was it, the opportunity she'd been praying for. Ryu Seon-hwan was Han's right hand. If anyone knew what happened to Adai's, it was him. But approaching him was suicide. Her hands trembled as she picked up the tea service. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to stay invisible like she had learned to do in this country that didn't want her. But then Adai's face flashed in her mind. That video, those 3 seconds of terror, the sound of something hitting the floor. "Don't come looking for me." Why would Daisy say that? Unless she was trying to protect Zara. Unless she knew exactly what these men were capable of. Zara's resolve hardened. She carried the tea to his table, bowing slightly, keeping her eyes down like the manager had taught her. Ryu didn't look up. His fingers moved across his phone screen with mechanical precision. She poured the tea with shaking hands. He still didn't acknowledge her. This was her window, maybe 2 minutes before his associates arrived, before the bodyguards rotated positions, before the moment dissolved. It was now or never. Zara retreated to the kitchen, her heart hammering against her ribs. She grabbed a napkin, found a pen, and stood there frozen. What could she write? A direct accusation? A threat? A plea? 7 words formed in her mind. 7 words that would either give her answers or get her killed. She wrote them with a trembling hand. "I know what happened to Adaize Okoye." Her breath came in short gasps. This changed everything. No going back. No safety. Just truth or death. She folded the napkin and slipped it into her apron. But she didn't notice the manager watching her from the office doorway. Didn't see one of Ryu's bodyguards glance her direction twice, memorizing her face. Didn't realize the security camera angle had shifted, pointed directly at her station. And she definitely didn't see Minji step outside, phone pressed to her ear, whispering urgently in Korean to someone on the other end. Zara walked back to Ryu's table, legs somehow still working despite the terror flooding her veins. She placed the folded napkin beneath his teacup and walked away. Ryu Seon-hwan didn't flinch when he found the napkin. His business associates had just arrived, 3 men in expensive suits discussing port schedules and shipment routes in coded language. Ryu reached for his teacup to take a sip, and his fingers brushed paper. He unfolded it beneath the table where no one could see. 7 words in slightly trembling handwriting. I know what happened to Adaise Okoye. His jaw tightened. Just barely. A micro-expression that lasted less than a second. But inside, that name detonated like a grenade. Adaise Okoye. The maid, 2 years ago. The night the shipment went missing and his father's face had gone cold with rage. The night Jun Seok-han had given him a direct order. Make sure no one talks. Ryu had delegated it to his men, assumed it was handled. Never asked for details because he'd learned long ago that some questions were better left unasked in his family. But someone knew her name. Someone knew enough to write it down and slip it under his teacup. His fingers tightened on the porcelain, the only outward sign of the storm building inside him. His associates kept talking, oblivious. Ryu's eyes flicked up, scanning the restaurant with predatory focus. The waitress who'd served his tea was already gone, vanished into the kitchen. He caught his lead bodyguard's attention with a subtle gesture, 2 fingers tapping his watch. The signal was clear. Lock it down. Find her. Zara's heart was trying to break through her ribcage. She'd done it. Actually done it. The napkin was delivered, the message sent, and now there was no taking it back. She forced herself to move normally, clearing tables, refilling water glasses, smiling blandly at customers who didn't see her as human. But inside, every nerve was screaming. She glanced toward the private booth. Ryu was still sitting there, talking with his associates, looking completely unbothered. Maybe he hadn't seen it yet, or maybe he had, and he was just waiting. The manager approached her, his expression tight. Zara, you can leave early tonight. We're overstaffed. That had never happened before. Her blood went cold. Okay. Thank you. She grabbed her bag from the employee locker, hands shaking so badly she could barely open the combination lock. Through the small window in the kitchen door, she saw one of Ryu's bodyguards talking to the manager, gesturing toward the back of the restaurant. They were looking for her. Zara didn't wait to see more. She slipped out the kitchen exit into the alley, rain immediately soaking through her uniform. She ran. Inside Hanul, Ryu's men moved with cold efficiency. Employee records were pulled. The manager stammered about a waitress named Lee Minna, fake name, fake ID number. Security footage was reviewed on the office computer. Her face appeared on every camera angle, clear as day. Ryu's tech specialist, a thin man with glasses named Park, pulled up her digital footprint within 20 minutes. She accessed an encrypted server 3 weeks ago from an internet cafe in Seomyeon, downloaded a deleted folder containing... Sir, she has everything. Ryu's expression remained stone. Everything. Shipping manifests, financial records, the offshore accounts, police payoffs, and... Park hesitated. Video files from October 2023. The night Adaise Okoye disappeared. Ryu felt something cold settle in his chest. This wasn't blackmail. This was ammunition. This woman, whoever she was, could destroy the entire Han Empire with a single upload. Protocol was clear. Find her, eliminate the threat, recover the data. But that name kept echoing in his head. Adaise Okoye. He remembered her face now. Young, scared. His father's penthouse maid who'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Ryu had given the order to handle it, and never followed up because that's how this world worked. You delegated the ugly work and slept better at night. Except his father had smiled that night. That cold, satisfied smile that meant someone had suffered. She's handled, Jun Seok had said. But what did handled actually mean? Ryu should have called his father immediately, should have reported the security breach and mobilized the entire organization. Instead, he said, "Find her, but I want her brought to me alive. No one touches her until I've talked to her." His men exchanged glances but didn't question. Ryu Sion Huan's word was law. Zara's apartment was a cramped studio in Gamcheon Culture Village. Colourful houses stacked on hillsides, tourists everywhere during the day, silent at night. She burst through the door, grabbed the go-bag she'd packed weeks ago when paranoia had made her prepare for exactly this moment. Passport, cash, the original USB drive with copied files, a change of clothes. She left everything else, the few belongings she'd accumulated, the photographs of Adai's taped to the wall, the life she'd barely built. 30 minutes later, she was on a midnight bus heading to a different district, using a name she'd invented, Sarah Kim. The motel was called Daehan, a rundown building on the outskirts of Busan where rooms were paid in cash and no one asked questions. Zara paid for a week, locked herself inside, and finally let herself collapse. She'd done it. She'd sent the message. Now all she could do was wait, and pray she'd live long enough to get answers. 3 days passed like slow torture. Ryu's investigation turned up nothing at first. The waitress had vanished completely. No trace, no digital footprint, no contacts. But his father had learned about the security breach, and the response was immediate and brutal. Jun Seok-han sat in his penthouse office, fingers steepled, eyes like chips of black ice. Someone accessed our private files. Someone with information about the maid from 2 years ago. Find this person. Silence them. I don't care how. He put a price on her head. 50 million won. Within hours, every gang in Busan knew. A foreign woman, African, late 20s, goes by fake names. Anyone who found her would be rewarded handsomely. Zara had maybe 48 hours before someone recognized her face. But Ryu had resources his father's street soldiers didn't. He had park trace every motel registration in Busan from the past 72 hours, cross-referencing descriptions, payment methods, anything unusual. One name appeared, Sarah Kim. Paid cash. No ID shown. Motel Daehan. "That's her," Ryu said quietly. He went alone. Zara was cleaning a room on the 2nd floor when she saw him. Through the window, walking across the motel parking lot like death itself, tailored black coat, hands in pockets, moving with the calm certainty of a predator who'd already won. Her breath stopped. She dropped the cleaning supplies and ran toward the back stairwell, but the hallway lights flickered. Old wiring, bad maintenance, and when she rounded the corner he was already there, standing in the dim corridor. Alone. No bodyguards this time. His coat was open enough that she could see the gun holstered at his side, but he didn't draw it. Zara backed against the wall, pulse hammering in her ears, trapped with nowhere to run. Ryu Sion Huan's voice was quiet, deadly. "You wrote that name." Not a question. A statement carved from ice. Zara's voice came out stronger than she felt. "Yes." "Why?" She looked him directly in the eyes. This man who'd killed for his family, this monster in expensive clothes, and said the only truth that mattered. "You killed my sister." Her voice cracked, but she didn't look away. "Adaize Okoye. She worked for your family, she disappeared. I want to know what you did to her." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. For 3 seconds, Ryu said nothing. His expression was unreadable, carved from granite. Then something shifted, just barely, like a crack appearing in ice. "I didn't kill her." Zara's laugh was bitter. "Liar." "I didn't." His voice was still cold, but something underneath it sounded almost like truth. "My father gave the order. I delegated it to my men. I assumed it was done." "Assumed?" Rage flooded through Zara's fear. "My sister is dead because you assumed. I don't know if she's dead." The words hit Zara like a physical blow. "What?" Ryu's jaw tightened. "My father told me she was handled. I never asked what that meant. I never saw a body. I never received confirmation." Zara's hands shook as she pulled the USB drive from her pocket and held it up. I have proof. Photos. Video. Your family tried to delete it, but I found it. She pulled up a file on her phone. The photograph of Adai's in the marble foyer, terror in her eyes, timestamp from the night she vanished. Ryu's expression changed. Something flickered behind those cold eyes. Recognition, and maybe something darker. Where did you get this? From a folder your family tried to erase. Zara's voice was steel wrapped in heartbreak. I have everything. Shipping manifests, murder evidence, offshore accounts, enough to bury your entire empire. Ryu should have killed her right then. It was the smart play, the only play. Instead, he asked, You have proof? Enough to bury your entire family. Silence stretched between them, predator and prey, killer and victim, two people trapped in a hallway with flickering lights and impossible choices. Then Ryu said something that changed everything. Then we need to talk. Ryu's words hung in the narrow hallway like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. Your sister might be alive. Zara's world stopped spinning, her breath caught in her throat. What? My father doesn't kill without profit. Ryu's voice was flat, emotionless, but his eyes held something different. Calculation, or maybe guilt. If she had value, if she knew something useful or could be leveraged, he wouldn't waste that. You're lying. But Zara's voice trembled with desperate hope. I'm not. Ryu pulled out his phone, scrolling through encrypted files. My father keeps records of everything. Assets, holdings, problems he's storing for later use. If your sister witnessed what I think she did, she's not dead. She's insurance. Zara's knees nearly buckled. 2 years of searching. 2 years of nightmares imagining a Daisy's body dumped in the ocean or buried in an unmarked grave. And now this man, this killer, was telling her there was hope. Why would you help me? She whispered. Ryu's jaw tightened. For a moment he looked almost human. Because if my father lied about this, I need to know what else he's lied about. And because... He paused, something flickering across his face. You remind me of someone who also tried to escape this family. My mother. She didn't make it out. The alliance they formed was fragile as spun glass and twice as dangerous. Zara had leverage, the USB drive with copied files sent to a trusted friend in Lagos with explicit instructions. If Zara died or went silent for more than 72 hours, release everything to international media and law enforcement. Ryu couldn't just kill her. He needed her cooperation to retrieve all copies and contain the damage. They were trapped in mutual need, circling each other like wounded animals deciding whether to fight or flee together. If we're doing this, Ryu said, you need to learn how to move in my world. Right now, you're a target with a neon sign. So he taught her. In a safe house on the outskirts of Busan, a sparse apartment with blackout curtains and weapons hidden in every room, Ryu trained Zara to survive. How to avoid security cameras by understanding their blind spots. How to read bodyguards' positioning and anticipate their movements. How to defend herself if cornered. She was a quick learner, sharp-minded and fearless in ways that surprised him. 1 week of preparation. 7 days of late-night planning sessions, poring over blueprints and security protocols, mapping out contingencies. And slowly, the walls between them began to crack. It was 3 a.m. on the 5th night when Zara finally asked the question that had been burning in her chest. Your mother? What happened to her? Ryu was cleaning his gun, the mechanical motion of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. He didn't look up. Okay. She wanted to leave. Take me with her. Disappear to another country, start over. His voice was hollow. My father found out. He said she was betraying the family, betraying him. And I was 12 years old when I watched him put a bullet in her head. Ryu's hand stilled. He told me it was a lesson about loyalty. That family comes first, always. That weakness gets you killed. Zara's throat tightened. You were just a child. I stopped being a child that night. Ryu finally looked at her, and for the first time she saw past the cold mask to the broken boy underneath. I became what he needed me to be. His weapon. His heir. I've killed 17 people for this family, Zara. 17 that I pulled the trigger on myself. How many more died because I gave the orders? Then why help me now? Because you slipped me a note with your sister's name on it, and for the first time in 20 years, I questioned whether everything I've done was built on lies. His voice cracked, just barely. If Daisy is alive, if my father has been keeping her locked away all this time, then what else don't I know? Zara moved closer, sitting across from him. Addie's always believed people could change. That one choice could redirect your entire life. Do you believe that? She met his eyes. I am sitting here planning to infiltrate a crime syndicate with a man who hunted me 3 days ago. So yeah, I have to believe it. Something passed between them in that moment. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. 2 people trapped by the same monster, trying to claw their way toward light. The breakthrough came on day 6. Ryu hacked into his father's private server, a system so encrypted that even the family's top tech specialists couldn't access it. But Ryu had something they didn't his father's paranoid habit of using his dead wife's birthday and password combinations. The files opened like Pandora's box. Special assets, Ryu muttered, scrolling through folders. Inactive holdings, insurance policies. And then, there, a folder labelled simply JJ 2023-10. Inside, photographs. Women in identical grey uniforms, faces hollow and defeated, location stamps, medical records, security rotation schedules. Ryu's breath caught. One photo showed a woman thinner than she should be, scars on her arms, but unmistakably alive. Adeze Okoye. Oh my God! Zara's hand flew to her mouth. That's her. That's a Daisy. The location tag read, Jeju Island Facility, Sector C. Ryu pulled up more files. The facility was offshore, isolated, heavily guarded, used to hold problems that couldn't be killed but needed to be controlled. Witnesses who knew too much, rivals who could be leveraged, people who'd become human bargaining chips. Adeze had witnessed a government official's assassination. She was being kept alive as insurance. If the official's allies ever became problems, the Han family had a witness who could implicate them too. Mutually assured destruction. Human addition. She's alive, Zara whispered, tears streaming down her face. She's alive. But Ryu's expression was grim. Getting her out means going to war with my father, with the entire syndicate. They'll kill us all. Zara wiped her eyes and looked at him with steel in her gaze. Then we'd better not lose. The plan was insane. Ryu would use his authority as heir to visit the Jeju facility, a routine inspection that wouldn't to raise alarms. He'd bring Zara as his associate, documents forged, disguise perfect. His men wouldn't question it. He was Ryu Seon-hwan after all. But Jun Seok-han had spies everywhere. They had one shot. Jeju Island rose from the ocean like a fortress, beautiful beaches masking the ugliness hidden inland. The facility was concrete and barbed wire, sterile as a morgue, tucked away where tourists never ventured. Ryu's car passed through 3 security checkpoints. Each guard bowed and waved them through. Zara wore a wig, glasses, business clothes that made her look like corporate staff. Her hands were clenched so tight in her lap that her knuckles turned white. Breathe, Ryu murmured. You're my associate reviewing asset management, nothing more. Inside, the building smelled like disinfectant and despair. Rows of reinforced doors lined sterile hallways. Guards patrolled with military precision. Zara's heart was trying to break through her ribcage. Is Adeze really here? After 2 years, is this real? Ryu checked his notes and led her to the 3rd floor. Room 14B. He keyed in the access code. The door clicked open. And there, sitting on a narrow bed thinner than Zara remembered, scars mapping trauma on her arms, eyes haunted but alive, was Adeze Okoye. For one frozen second, neither sister moved. Then Zara's knees gave out and she stumbled forward. Adeze! Zara! Adeze's voice was broken glass and disbelief. No, no, you can't be here! They collided in desperate embrace, both sobbing, clutching each other like the world was ending. "I promised I'd find you," Zara choked out. "I promised. You shouldn't have come." Adiz was shaking. "They'll kill you." Alarms exploded through the building. Red lights flashed. Doors slammed shut, magnetic locks engaging with metallic thunder. Ryu cursed and spun toward the hallway. Security monitors flickered to life, and on every screen the same face appeared, Junseok Han, smiling that cold, satisfied smile. "Did you think I wouldn't know, my son?" Ryu's blood turned to ice. "The moment you accessed my private server, I knew. The moment you requested facility clearance, I knew." His father's voice was silk over razors. "You're predictable, sentimental, weak." Footsteps echoed, dozens of them, armed men flooding the corridors. "It was a trap," Zara whispered. Junseok Han appeared at the end of the hallway, surrounded by 20 soldiers, all armed, all loyal. Ryu stepped in front of the sisters, hand moving toward his concealed weapon. "You betray family for a foreign whore?" Junseok's voice dripped contempt. "You taught me loyalty," Ryu said quietly, "but you never taught me truth." "Truth?" His father laughed. "Truth is what I make it. Power is truth. And you, my son, have just thrown yours away." Guns raised. Red laser sights painted Ryu's chest. Junseok's smile widened. "Kill them both. Bring me my son's body so I can bury him next to his weak mother." Ryu's hand moved to his weapon. "I wouldn't," he said calmly. Junseok paused. "Before I came here, I sent every file Zara collected to the Korean National Intelligence Service. They've had it for 3 hours. They're already moving." Ryu's voice was steady as stone. "Your empire is falling apart as we speak. Authorities are 10 minutes out." His father's expression flickered, the first crack in his perfect control. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Junseok's face twisted with rage. "Then you die with them. Fire!" The hallway erupted into chaos. Bullets shredded the air. Ryu shoved Zara and Adiz back into the room, returning fire with lethal precision. 2 of his father's men dropped before the others scattered for cover. Zara pulled Adiz behind the overturned bed, heart hammering, ears ringing from gunfire. Ryu moved like death itself, trained since childhood for exactly this. But he was outnumbered. A bullet tore through his shoulder and he staggered. "Ryu!" Zara lunged forward, dragging him behind cover as blood bloomed across his shirt. "Keep your head down," he gritted out, still firing. The raid sirens were deafening now. Voices shouting orders, boots thundering through the facility. Junseok appeared in the doorway, gun raised toward Zara. Ryu threw himself between them. The bullet meant for her chest hit his side instead. He collapsed, and Zara caught him, screaming his name. Then the Korean National Intelligence agents flooded the hallway. Tactical gear, assault rifles, overwhelming force. "Drop your weapons!" Junseok tried to run, his son's blood pooling on the floor beneath him. Ryu, barely conscious, stuck out his foot. His father tripped and went down hard. Agents swarmed him, forcing his hands behind his back. Junseok Han looked at his son one final time, hatred and grief warring in his eyes. "You were supposed to be my legacy," he whispered. "I was supposed to be human," Ryu answered. Then his eyes closed. The bullet had missed Ryu's heart by 3 centimeters. 3 centimeters between life and death, between redemption and oblivion. The surgeons at Busan Medical Center worked for 6 hours to stabilize him, repairing torn muscle, extracting fragments, stitching together a man who'd spent his entire life bleeding others. When he woke 3 days later, the first face he saw wasn't his father, S or his lieutenants, or any of the syndicate members who Dee once called him family. It was Zara's. She sat in the corner of his hospital room, exhausted, still wearing the same clothes from Jeju, dried blood, his blood, staining her sleeves. "You're awake," she said softly. Ryu's voice was gravel. "You should have run." "Where was I going to run to?" A ghost of a smile touched her lips. You kind of saved my life. You saved mine first. Outside that hospital room, the Han Empire was collapsing like a house built on corpses. The USB drive's evidence, shipping manifests, offshore accounts, murder documentation led to 47 arrests in the first week alone. Politicians resigned, police chiefs were fired, port officials disappeared overnight. Jun Seok Han sat in a maximum security cell awaiting trial for racketeering, human trafficking, and 17 counts of murder. His kingdom, built over 3 decades, dismantled in 72 hours. 6 weeks later, Zara and Adaizi stood in a small apartment in Seoul, government-provided housing under witness protection. Adaiz was thinner than she used to be, and nightmares still woke her most nights. But trauma therapy was helping. Slowly. She was learning to exist in a world without locked doors and guards, learning to trust that freedom wasn't a trick. The sisters sat together on a worn couch, drinking tea, existing in the comfortable silence of people who'd survived hell together. "I still can't believe you found me," Addis whispered. 2 years. You never gave up. Zara squeezed her hand. "I promised Mom I'd bring you home. I don't break promises. We can't go back to Nigeria. Not yet. Maybe not ever." "I know." Zara's voice was steady. "But we're together. That's home enough for now." Adaizi studied her sister's face, the new hardness around her eyes, the way she checked exits instinctively now, the weapon she'd started carrying after Ryu taught her how. "You lost your innocence saving me," Adaizi said quietly. "I gained something too." Zara met her sister's gaze. "I learned I'm stronger than I ever knew. And I learned that sometimes monsters are just broken people waiting for permission to be human again." 4 months after Jeju, Zara walked into a prison visitation room. Ryu sat on the other side of reinforced glass, wearing grey prison clothes instead of designer suits. He'd cooperated fully with authorities, testifying against every remaining syndicate member he knew. In exchange, a reduced sentence. 5 years for accessory to crimes, conspiracy and racketeering. 5 years to atone for 17 bodies and a lifetime of blood. When he saw Zara, something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe hope. Then he saw the woman behind her, Adaize. She sat down slowly, hands folded in her lap, studying the man who'd been part of the family that destroyed her life. "Thank you," she said simply. Ryu's throat worked. "I don't deserve thanks." "Maybe not, but you saved us anyway." Adaizi's voice was stronger than it had been in Jeju. Therapy was working. "You chose us over your family, over everything you knew. That matters." "I chose what I should have chosen 20 years ago." Ryu looked at Zara. "She showed me there was still something human left in me worth saving." Zara pressed her hand against the glass. After a moment, Ryu mirrored the gesture. "When you get out," she said quietly, "we'll still be here." "That's 5 years, Zara. I know how to wait." They won so much that day in Jeju. Truth, justice, freedom. The sisters reunited, an empire destroyed, corrupt officials exposed. But some things were lost forever too. Zara could never unsee what she'd witnessed, the violence, the brutality, the darkness that humans were capable of. Adaiz had years stolen from her that no amount of therapy could fully return. And Ryu's family name was poisoned now, tainted forever by his father's sins and his own complicity. But somehow, impossibly, hope remained. In late-night phone calls between Zara and Ryu, in Adaizi's slow healing, each nightmare less frequent than the last. In the knowledge that even in Busan's darkest corners, courage could still bloom. Not everything needed an answer today. Some stories continued beyond their endings. When Ryu was released in 5 years, would Zara still be there? Could love grow from ashes this dark and twisted? The look they shared through prison glass suggested, maybe, and maybe was enough. This story isn't just about a note or a mafia boss or even revenge. It's about a woman who refused to disappear, who fought when the world told her to be invisible, who loved her sister more than she feared death. Zara taught us that courage isn't the absence of fear, It is loving someone so much that fear becomes irrelevant. Rue learned that redemption is possible, even for hands stained with blood, but only if you were willing to burn down everything you've ever known to find it. And Adais? She survived. Not just physically, but in spirit, because somewhere across the world, her sister never stopped searching. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is slip a note to a monster, and hope he has a soul left to find. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the stranger who risks everything to save you. Sometimes it's the enemy who becomes your salvation. If this story moved you, don't just watch and leave. Let me know. Comment below. What would you have done in Zara's position? Would you risk everything for family, or would fear win? Hit that subscribe button because I bring you stories like this every week. Stories about courage, redemption, and the beautiful chaos of being human. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone fighting their own battles. Someone who needs to know they're not alone. And before you go, tell me, Team Zara or Team Ryu? Who was the real hero here? Thank you for watching. Remember, you're stronger than you think, and sometimes all it takes is a note to change everything. See you in the next one. Stay brave.